Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're taking a look at something a little different.
Yeah,
We're going to be talking about white-collar crime.
it's gonna good.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at what it is, how it impacts people and businesses, even how it's changing
Mm-hmm.
with this whole digital age that we're living in.
Internet.
And I think sometimes when people think about white-collar crime, they think, oh, this is something that,
Yeah.
happens in big corporate offices and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Crime in a suit.
But what we're going to see is that it can actually hit a lot closer to home than you might think.
Yeah, it really does. I think, when we think about crime, we tend to picture, these big Hollywood heists.
Right.
But the reality is that crimes committed with a computer or a pen or even just,
Yeah.
a really good persuasive voice can be just as damaging,
Right.
if not more so. And that's really what white collar crime is all about.
So let's start with the basics then.
Yeah.
What exactly is white-collar crime?
So that term itself is interesting. It has a whole history.
Okay.
Back in the 1930s, there was this sociologist named Edwin Sutherland,
Uh-huh.
and he actually coined that term white-collar crime.
Wow.
It was kind of groundbreaking at the time because, back then people thought crime was just something that happened on the street.
Like a blue-collar kind of thing?
Exactly, like a blue-collar street-level problem.
Right.
But Sutherland was like, no people in positions of power,
Yeah.
respectable people, they can commit crimes too.
Right.
It just looks different.
It's just a different way of doing it.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that saying crime in a suit.
Exactly. Yeah, crime in a suit.
Right.
Perfect way to put it.
So, okay, we kind of got like a general idea of what it is.
Yeah.
What are we actually talking about here? What kind of activities fall under this umbrella
Right.
of white-collar crime?
Well, it's a pretty wide range.
Okay.
One big category is fraud, and fraud can look like a lot of different things. Like you've got insurance fraud, where someone might stage an accident to get an insurance payout,
Oh, wow.
or mortgage fraud, where people lie on their loan application so they can get a bigger mortgage than they should.
Interesting.
And then there are those classic, get-rich-quick schemes
Great.
that promise these crazy returns. But it's all just a scam to get your money.
Yeah.
A lot of different flavors of fraud out there.
Yeah. And then there's things like embezzlement, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where someone basically steals money that they were trusted with.
Right. Taking money that's not theirs.
Yeah. And that Rita Crundwell case
Oh, yeah.
comes to mind immediately.
Oh, that's a classic example.
She was a city comptroller in a small town in Illinois,
Uh-huh.
and she managed to embezzle over $50 million.
That's decades.
Over 20 years.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
And she was using it to fund her lavish lifestyle.
yeah, like horses and
A champion horse breeding operation.
yeah, it's just mind-blowing.
Right under everyone's noses.
It shows that this stuff can happen anywhere. Even in like small towns.
Small, quiet towns. Yeah.
And it's like, we really got to be careful.
Be vigilant.
Yeah, even when you think you can trust someone.
Yeah.
And speaking of trust,
Oh, yeah.
Ponzi schemes are another thing that really
They're big ones.
play on people's trust.
Huge.
They sound so good.
Oh, yeah.
Like high returns with little to no risk.
Who wouldn't want that?
It's like, how can you say no?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Charles Ponzi, the guy that the scheme is named after,
Yeah.
he was a master manipulator.
Oh, yeah.
He was basically taking money from new investors to pay off the old ones.
Like robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these things, they're just designed to collapse eventually,
Yeah.
leaving a ton of people in financial ruin.
It's mind-boggling how people fall for it.
I know. It's like they forget all logic when they hear easy money.
Yeah, it's the allure of easy money.
It really is powerful.
Yeah. But let's move on to a different type of white-collar crime.
Okay, let's do it.
What about extortion?
So extortion, that's all about using threats or force to get something from someone, usually money.
Okay.
So you could think of like a public official
Yeah.
who demands bribes to give out contracts,
Oh, that's a good example.
or, someone threatening to release embarrassing information.
Right.
Unless you pay up.
It's like blackmail.
It is blackmail, yeah.
Okay.
That's a good way to think about it.
And then you have bankruptcy fraud,
Right.
where people basically manipulate the system to avoid paying their debts
Yeah, they might hide assets or lie to the court.
so they can just get out of it.
Yep, gaming the system.
Wow. Okay. And, of course, we can't forget about money laundering.
Money laundering.
Yeah, that's where criminals try to make their dirty money look clean.
Yeah, they create these complex webs of transactions.
Yeah.
Using shell companies and all sorts of tricks to hide where the money really came from.
To make it look like it came from somewhere legitimate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's often linked to other crimes, like
Yeah.
drug trafficking.
Oh, wow.
Or, even the fraud that we talked about earlier.
It's all connected.
It's all connected, yeah.
Wow, so that's why we have all those anti-money laundering laws and regulations.
Right, to try to catch them.
Yeah, to try and stop the flow of this.
Disrupt those illicit financial flows.
Yeah, it's fascinating how they try to stay ahead of the law.
Oh, yeah, they're always coming up with new tricks.
Yeah, okay, so what about insider trading?
Ah, insider trading.
Another big one.
That one makes headlines.
Yeah, that's where people use confidential information
Right.
to make money in the stock market.
Exactly. So let's say you know that a company is about to be acquired,
Okay.
and you know the stock price is going to go way up.
Right.
But that information hasn't been released publicly yet.
Uh-huh.
If you buy stock based on that insider knowledge,
You're breaking the law.
that's insider trading. Yep. You're using privileged information for personal profit.
Wow.
It's not fair to everyone else.
No, not at all.
Nope.
Okay, and then there's corporate fraud,
Corporate fraud.
where companies themselves are doing shady things
Right.
to mislead investors or regulators.
Yeah, I think Enron.
Enron, that's like the classic example.
The poster child for corporate fraud.
Yeah, they cut the books, basically.
Yeah, deceptive accounting, inflated profits.
And it all came crashing down.
It did, and it cost investors billions.
Yeah, and shook people's faith in the whole system.
It really did. It was a huge scandal.
Yeah, so even giant corporations aren't immune to this.
Nope. Anyone can be tempted.
Yeah. And finally, we have cybercrime.
Ah, yes. Cybercrime, the new frontier.
Yeah, it seems like every day there's a new data breach or a hacking incident.
It's exploding
Yeah.
in the digital age. It's everything from stealing personal information
Oh,
to
yeah.
disrupting critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
And as we rely more and more on technology,
Mm.
these opportunities for cyber criminals are just going to keep growing.
It's a little scary to think about.
It is a little unsettling.
We've talked about a lot of different types of white-collar crime here.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But what really hits home is the impact that these crimes have
Absolutely.
on individuals and businesses and society as a whole.
The ripple effects are huge.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to explore next.
Let's dive into that.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
So welcome back to our deep dive into white-collar crime. We've just scratched the surface here.
Yeah.
There are so many different types,
Right.
but I think the main thing to remember is that they all have something in common.
Okay, what's that?
They all involve exploiting trust,
Okay.
manipulating systems, and they often leave behind a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Financial damage and emotional damage.
It's not just about the money.
It's not just about the money, no.
Okay, so let's talk about the impact then.
Yeah.
We always hear about the financial losses, which
Right.
it can be huge.
Oh, yeah.
But what are some of the other consequences that people might not think about?
Well, the financial impact is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, in the U.S. alone, the FBI estimates that white-collar crime costs the economy hundreds of billions of dollars every year.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
It is, and that's money that could be used for so many other things,
Yep.
like schools and healthcare and infrastructure.
Right.
But it's not just about the dollar amount.
Yeah, so what are some of the other ripple effects?
Well, for individuals,
Yeah,
the consequences can be devastating.
how so?
I mean, they could lose their life savings,
Wow.
their homes, their businesses.
Right.
And it's not just about the money either.
Right. It's got to be emotionally devastating too.
It is. Imagine being scammed by someone you thought you could trust.
Yeah, like a financial advisor
Yeah, exactly.
or even a family member.
Oh, yeah.
That would be awful.
It's a huge violation of trust.
Yeah.
And it can really shake your faith in people.
And institutions.
And institutions, exactly.
Yeah, it's like a double whammy.
It is.
You're losing money and you're losing trust.
Exactly.
And then for businesses,
Yeah.
if they're caught doing something shady,
Right.
it can really hurt the reputation.
absolutely.
People might not want to do business with them anymore.
They lose that customer trust.
Yeah.
And that can lead to bankruptcy.
Wow.
It can really hurt them.
And then there's the impact on society as a whole.
Right.
You mentioned this earlier
Yeah.
about social inequality.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so white-collar criminals often come from positions of privilege and power.
Wow.
They have access to resources and legal expertise
Yeah.
that most people don't have,
Right.
and that can make it harder to hold them accountable.
So it's like two sets of rules,
It can feel that way.
one for the rich and powerful
Yeah.
and one for everyone else.
It's not fair,
It's not.
but it's a reality.
So it's not just about stealing money.
No,
It's about exploiting the system and
exactly.
taking advantage of people who are less fortunate.
It can perpetuate these cycles of poverty and inequality.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like if someone loses their life savings in a Ponzi scheme,
Yeah.
orchestrated by some wealthy financier, it's going to be a lot harder for them to recover
Yeah.
than someone who has a safety net of wealth and connection.
It's just not a level playing field.
It's not.
So white-collar crime, it's not a victimless crime.
No.
It has real consequences.
Real and lasting consequences.
Yeah, for individuals, for businesses, for society.
For everyone, yeah.
So we really need a multifaceted approach to fighting it.
Absolutely.
We need strong laws, effective regulations,
Yes.
and a culture of ethics.
In every sector.
Yeah, in both the public and private sector.
Absolutely.
We talked earlier about how difficult it can be to prosecute these cases.
Oh, it's challenging.
Yeah, these criminals are often really smart,
They are.
and they know how to cover their tracks.
They're good at what they do.
So what are law enforcement agencies doing to try to stay ahead of the game?
Well, they're using more technology,
Okay.
data analytics,
Yeah.
to try to find patterns of suspicious activity.
So like algorithms and stuff.
Exactly. They're also working more closely with international partners
Okay.
to catch criminals who operate across borders.
Because these crimes can be global.
Oh, they can be very global.
Yeah.
And they're building stronger cases.
Yeah.
Ones that will hold up in court.
So it's a constant battle.
It is a constant back and forth.
Yeah. The criminals getting smarter.
Yep.
Law enforcement is trying to keep up.
It's a game of cat and mouse.
But what about prevention?
Ah, prevention.
Yeah.
That's key.
What can we do to stop these crimes from happening in the first place?
Well, it starts with creating a culture of ethics
Okay.
within organizations.
So like companies need to have clear rules.
Clear codes of conduct,
Yeah.
strong internal controls,
Okay.
and a zero-tolerance policy for wrongdoing.
So people know that they can't get away with it.
Exactly.
It sounds like it's about making it clear that this behavior won't be tolerated.
It is.
And what about whistleblower programs?
Those are crucial.
Yeah, why is that?
They give employees a safe way to report wrongdoing.
Without fear of retaliation.
Exactly.
So they don't have to worry about losing their job
Right.
or being punished for speaking up.
It's about protecting those who do the right thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It encourages people to come forward.
Okay, but what about individuals?
Well, individuals can protect themselves. How education is key.
Okay, so learn about different scams
Yeah. Learn about the different schemes out there
so you can recognize them.
so you can spot them and avoid them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Be wary of offers that sound too good to be true.
Like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
It probably is, yeah.
Yeah.
Do your research before investing.
Don't just hand over your money.
No, do your due diligence.
Yeah.
And be careful about your personal information online.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, don't just give it out to anyone.
Right.
Be mindful of who you're sharing it with.
So it's about being proactive and taking steps to protect yourself.
It is.
Okay, but what happens when these criminals are caught?
Well,
What kind of punishments do they face?
it depends on the crime, of course.
Yeah.
But the penalties can range from fines
Okay.
to restitution,
Mm-hmm.
probation,
Yeah.
even imprisonment.
Wow, so it's not just a slap on the wrist.
No, not at all.
These are serious consequences.
They are. These are serious crimes.
The justice system is taking this seriously.
It is.
That's good to hear.
White-collar crime can be just as damaging as violent crime.
Yeah, maybe even more so in some cases.
In some cases, definitely.
But I imagine it's still difficult to prosecute these cases.
It can be.
Yeah.
White-collar criminals often have a lot of resources.
Yeah, they can afford good lawyers.
The best lawyers.
Yeah.
And they can use all sorts of legal tactics.
To delay things.
Yeah, to try to get out of it.
Wow.
It can be a long and complex process.
It sounds like it takes a lot of time and effort and expertise
It does.
to actually bring these criminals to justice.
It's a lot of work.
But it's important work.
It's essential.
Holding these people accountable
Yeah.
sends a message that this behavior won't be tolerated.
And we're not going to let them get away with it.
And it hopefully deters other people from doing the same thing.
Hopefully. Yeah.
You know, we've talked about the financial impact,
Mm-hmm.
the social impact,
Right.
but what about the psychological impact on the victims?
Oh, that's important too.
Yeah.
I mean, being a victim of white-collar crime can be incredibly traumatic.
It's a betrayal of trust.
It is.
It can really mess with your head.
It can, yeah. Victims often feel a lot of anger,
Yeah.
shame,
Uh,
guilt,
wow.
a sense of betrayal. They might struggle with anxiety
Yeah.
depression,
Right.
even post-traumatic stress disorder.
It's like a form of abuse almost.
It is a form of abuse, yeah.
Emotional abuse.
It's important to recognize that
Yeah.
and to provide support for victims.
Okay, so the healing process can be just as complex
It can.
as it is for victims of violent crime.
Absolutely.
This has been a really eye-opening discussion.
It has.
We've learned a lot about the different types of white-collar crime.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, the impact it has.
Yeah.
The challenges of prosecuting these cases.
It's not easy.
No.
But it's important work.
Yeah, and the importance of prevention.
Prevention is key.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier
Okay.
about technology.
Uh-huh.
It seems like technology plays a role in both
It does.
committing these crimes
Yeah.
and fighting them.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to explore in the final part of our discussion.
Let's dive into that.
Welcome back. It's been a wild ride through this world of white-collar crime.
It has.
We've seen how much damage it can do to
Yeah.
people, businesses, even whole economies.
The ripple effects are huge.
Yeah, and it's all happening kind of under the radar sometimes.
And the shadows.
Yeah. So in this last part, I want to focus on how technology is changing things.
Okay. Yeah.
Like a double-edged sword, right? It can help the criminals,
Uh-huh.
but it can also help the people trying to catch them.
Exactly. It's a tool for both sides.
So how has the digital age made things easier for these white-collar criminals?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
It's easier than ever to steal data.
Right.
You can manipulate financial systems.
Yeah.
You can do all sorts of illegal stuff online
And stay anonymous.
and stay anonymous. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the rise of cybercrime.
Yeah.
It's exploding.
Data breaches.
Data breach,
Identity theft.
identity theft.
Ransomware attacks.
Oh, yeah.
It can cripple a whole business.
It can shut them down completely.
It's like we're in a digital Wild West out there.
It kind of is. Yeah.
The rules are changing so fast.
Constantly evolving.
Yeah, and the stakes are higher than ever.
Absolutely.
So what can we do to fight back
Well,
against these tech-savvy criminals?
it's a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
Individuals need to take steps to protect themselves.
Like what kind of steps?
Think of it like locking your doors and windows.
Okay, in the real world.
Yeah, in the physical world,
Yeah.
but in the digital world.
Okay.
So strong passwords,
Right.
multi-factor authentication.
Uh-huh.
Be careful about what information you share online.
So just being more aware.
Yeah, being more aware and proactive.
Okay, that's for individuals.
Yeah.
But what about businesses and governments?
So for businesses,
Yeah.
they need to invest in cybersecurity.
Like the latest software and stuff?
Yeah, the latest technologies, firewalls,
Yeah.
intrusion detection systems.
Okay.
But it's not just about the technology.
So what else?
It's about having clear protocols for data protection.
Right, so people know what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And training employees to recognize threats.
Okay, so they're not clicking on phishing emails.
Exactly.
So it's about creating a culture of cybersecurity.
It is, yeah.
Okay, and for governments.
Governments have a big role to play, too.
Okay, what can they do?
Well, they need to strengthen law enforcement.
Okay, give them the resources they need.
Yeah, give them the reason.
Yeah.
The training, the
Yeah.
tools they need to investigate these cyber criminals.
Right.
And they need to work with other countries.
Okay, because these crimes can cross borders.
Exactly. They can be global.
Yeah.
And governments also need to create policies
Okay.
that promote cybersecurity.
So laws and regulations
Yeah. Laws, regulations, incentives.
to encourage businesses to take this seriously.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
It's about setting the stage for a more secure digital world.
So it's a big job,
It is a big job.
but somebody's got to do it.
It's essential.
Yeah, okay, but can technology itself be part of the solution?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, how so?
Remember, technology is a double-edged sword,
Right.
but it can also be used for good, like artificial intelligence,
Oh, yeah.
AI, and machine learning.
Yeah.
They're giving us new ways to detect fraud.
Okay.
These systems can analyze huge amounts of data
Yeah.
and spot patterns that humans might miss.
So it's like having an army of digital detectives.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. And then there's blockchain technology. With its decentralized ledger,
Yeah.
it can make financial transactions more transparent
Okay.
and more secure.
So harder for criminals to hide.
Exactly. They can't manipulate the system as easily.
Wow. That's really cool.
It's a game changer.
So there are some promising developments out there,
There are.
but it's still a race against the criminals.
It is a constant race.
So what do you think the future holds for all of this?
Well, it's hard to say for sure,
Yeah.
but I think it's going to depend on a few things.
Like what?
Technological innovation.
Okay.
human behavior,
Right.
and the laws and regulations that we put in place.
Yeah, so it's all connected.
It's all interconnected.
Like a constant evolution.
It is an evolution.
The criminals are evolving.
Yep.
The technology is evolving.
Uh-huh.
And the ways we fight back are evolving too.
We have to adapt to stay ahead.
Yeah.
It's a game of cat and mouse.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive
It has.
into the world of white-collar crime. A complex world.
Yeah. We've learned about the different types,
Yeah.
the impact,
Yeah.
the challenges of prosecution.
It's a tough job.
Yeah, and the role of technology.
Both good and bad.
I hope this has helped you understand this issue better.
Do too.
And maybe even inspired you to be more aware
Yeah.
and take steps to protect yourself.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, knowledge is power. So thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And be sure to subscribe to the channel
Yeah, hit that subscribe button.
so you don't miss any future episodes.
We've got more great content coming your way.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.